Merci, Dr. Obi, et aux panélistes pour cette discussion très intéressante. Mesdames et messieurs, c'est maintenant l'heure de la deuxième table ronde des ministres et des PDG sur les thèmes combinés du développement des compétences techniques et professionnelles et de l'enseignement supérieur et de la recherche scientifique. Nous voulons inviter et accueillir sur scène Dr. Lucy Hedy, directrice générale de l'ESA, l'Organisation pour l'éducation en Afrique subsaharienne, qui animera cette deuxième panel, et aussi inviter les panélistes. Donc, Excellence Dr. Valentine de Rwanda, Excellence Dr. Monica, Mutonji Mayanda de Festo, Excellence Madame Lila Devi Duncan de Tremont et Madame Titia Brede de NUFIC. Merci.
Hello, is this working? Good afternoon, distinguished guests. Please may I beg just 45 more minutes of your time. I am sure I can hear stomachs rumbling throughout the room, but I promise if you stay for this session, you'll find it very worthwhile. We're going to be talking for the next 45 minutes about an issue that is extremely important for the flourishing of young people in Africa. We are going to be talking about technical vocational skills development and higher education and scientific research. Holistic, industry-relevant skills will be critical for resilience against future emergence, also for the employability of the world's fastest-growing youth population. Higher education, critical for sustainable development. We all know that knowledge is power. If we want to raise the power of Africa, we must invest in knowledge creation, and universities are a critical component of that. I am honored today to be joined by our panelists. First of all, can I welcome the Right Honourable Vice Prime Minister of Mauritius, Mrs. Lila Devi Dukam. Please, a round of applause. I think we're going to have a panel conversation. Okay. So if you sit, and then I'll bring my... Next, I would like to welcome the Honourable Minister of Education for Rwanda, Dr. Valentine Uwamaria. Welcome. Thank you for joining us here today. Then, Dr. Titia Brede, CEO of NUFIC. Okay. For today, honorary doctorate. And lastly, I think we have joining us virtually Mr. Mutenji Mayundu. Is he on the screen? I'm not sure. Hopefully he will come up soon. He of Festo Didactic in the Eastern Southern African region and will be talking to us from an industry perspective. So, Honourable Minister of Mauritius, I'd like to start with you, on this critical issue of the link between industry and vocational and skills development institutions, so universities and colleges. How, in your country, are you linking with industry?
Thank you, Chair. What I wanted to say is that in any country, if you want to see progress, you need to prepare your human capital. And to prepare the human capital, you need to ensure that whatever skills they develop within the system, when they move out of the system, they can be productive and they can contribute to the growth of the economy. So what we have been doing in Mauritius, we have been trying to link up our institutions, training institutions, with industry, and we have managed to create a nexus, ensuring that they are very much involved with the institutions, not only to receive students for immersion in industry, but also in the design and preparation of the curriculum. And not only that, we have also tried to get the people from industry to be within the system and to come to our institutions to obviously then share their experience and help to prepare students within the institutions. So the linkage is extremely important, and all the institutions which deal with technical education and training have on the board of governors people from industry, people from the private sector, whether it is Institute of Technical Education and Technology or whether it is the polytechnics in Mauritius, in here. So we have ensured that they are fully involved within the system and ensuring that whatever they require is taken on board in the preparation and design of courses. But not only that, we also have noted that bright students, that people, and even parents, very often feel very reluctant to allow their children to join the technical education side, in spite of the fact that the progress and growth of the economy will depend on its capacity to have high-end technicians. So we've had a big struggle trying to change mindsets of parents, making them realize that technical education is not a dead end, that technical education can allow your children to grow. So what did we do here in Mauritius? We tried to create new pathways. We made parents realize that you can go for technical education and this can bring you advantages. Firstly, if you go for technical education, you can immediately get a job, you can immediately get the experience in industry, but at the same time, we have created pathways for them to move from technical education institutions to move to university. Because, you know, parents always feel that the children should go for higher education, but we had to create this link. We had to create this pathway from technical education and training institutions to higher education, to the universities. So it's a very intricate sort of network that we have created: industry, institutions, and pathways. But to be able to attract people, we had to do three things. First, we had to change the ecosystem. We had to change the paysage, the landscape. We invested massively in infrastructure for polytechnics. Polytechnics Mauritius has 4 brand new campuses in the mainland, one in the Rodrigues Island. So we have tried to ensure that people do feel attracted to these institutions. And then we have ensured that there are new lines, new niche areas to attract young people with things that attract the younger generation: cyber security, media development, interesting areas like robotics, big data, and all these areas to get young people to feel like joining and then create paths for them to progress.
Yes, I think a round of applause. Incredibly impressive transformation. I'd like to dig deeper just into one element of what you were saying. You talked about bringing together industry and education institutions in a way that made it sound so simple. In our experience, it has been very difficult to get the worlds of education and the world of industry to come together. Sometimes they seem like oil and water. I'd love to hear more about the Mauritius experience here and how you overcame some of those cultural barriers.
I think the first thing that we have to bear in mind is that young people that we produce will eventually end up working in industry or in the private sector. So it becomes imperative for them to join in and help in order to get the type of persons they require. So there has been a sort of a dialogue that has been set up between the industry people and our institutions, because they wanted to get rid of the mismatch we all talk about. People, always come and state that, what the students who are coming out of the institutions are not ready for the world of work. They don't have the skills required for the world of work. So we challenged them and we said that if you want to get people that you require, you need to help in the design of the curriculum. You need to come and let the institutions know what do you require. Because you will never be able to come up with people that are fit for a single job, especially in the world that we're living, in an era where technology is evolving that fast and changing the whole setup. You will always need to be, we keep on saying, lifelong learners. You will always need to adapt. So we can prepare young people with soft skills, allowing them to be versatile, allowing them to be adaptable, but you need to say what are your requirements for us to prepare them, and give them the soft skills, allow them to, I should say, develop the soft skills, but it is important for the industry people to be part of the system. And this is why in Mauritius, the Human Resource Development Council and the institutions work together. We do have, for example, I know that the CEO of Polytechnics Mauritius will be talking in some of the panels here, but they created this nexus, this link with the industry people. They are on all the councils, and they have to contribute. They have to bring in their views so that this is made possible. It has to be a win-win situation. We cannot keep on saying that there is a mismatch if industry people don't come forward and state, this is what we require. And this has started a long time back. We started in Mauritius in the 90s with the IVTB, Vocational Training Board. And then we came up with the MITD, which is a slightly different training institution, after which we now decided to come up with the Institute of Technical Education and Technology that is going to prepare our young people to move on to the polytechnics and eventually to the universities. But we haven't stopped there. We have asked industry people and other partners to work together with us. We are planning in the future to come up within our secondary schools with a new stream, which will be technology stream, preparing students within the school setup, within our secondary school, for them to later opt to go for training, for technical training. And this nexus, this link that you are talking about between industry and TVET institutions is also important between the industry and higher education. Because when we talk about education, it has to be a seamless sector. Whichever area you're talking, whether it is secondary school or whether you're talking about vocational institutions or polytechnics, there should be a close link with industry, because the young people we train will eventually end up there. But over and above all that, if we want our young people to show entrepreneurial skills, it is important for them to get immersed in industry, learn from what they have there, and develop these skills. So when we have the responsibility of education, whether it is primary, pre-primary, primary, secondary, technical, or higher education, we have this responsibility to ensure that the children coming out of the system, the people, become responsible citizens who will be able to contribute to society and to the country's growth.
Fantastic. Thank you, Minister. Really inspiring and wonderful to see the much talked about nexus really coming to life here and making a difference for young people. I'd like to turn now to the Honourable Minister for Education in Rwanda and to hear from a different perspective. What are you doing in Rwanda to create an enabling environment for technical vocational skills development and that link between education and industry?
Thank you very much. In Rwanda, it is started at policy level, where technical education was given emphasis in different policy documents. I can mention one, which is the National Strategy for Transformation that was adopted in 2017 up to 2024, where the target is to have 60% of O-level living students joining TVET education. And for that, we put in place other strategies like the funding of TVET, because we all know that technical education is expensive. That funding is done through partnership with different partners. We have a subsector, TVET subsector working group, where we meet as government institutions, different partners, including international organizations, but also local NGOs, where we meet regularly and discuss on the priorities. And for the other aspect that was given weight is the infrastructure, because when you talk about technical education, we talk about well-equipped workshops. So the government, together with partners, always invested into the construction. The construction we mentioned here of schools, they were also part of the technical education schools. So, and that goes hand in hand with the equipment of the workshops with wood equipments, and that costs a lot of money, as I said. So the other thing is to change the model of teaching, because we used to teach to use the knowledge-based curriculum. So from 2017, we moved to competence-based curriculum, where we have to work. You mentioned about how do we work with industry. So industry comes in starting from the design of the curriculum. So they also participate in teaching, because the way the curriculum is designed, most of the time students have to be to do hands-on exercises. So some work is done at school, but they have also to attend industrial attachments in different industries across the country. But also because our industry in Rwanda is still young in comparison to the number of students that have to join the attachment. We also allow the schools to have the production units within the schools, so that part of the time, instead of staying in a class with the teacher, they go into the production units. One, they learn by doing, but second, they generate income to again buy some consumables for the workshops. So, but we also created, because we realized that there was kind of resistance or misconception about technical education, and students, even parents, were not eager to join those schools. So on top of mobilization, we also defined the codification of framework that allows them, for those who go through technical education, they can also move horizontally or vertically if they want to do so. Also, at polytechnic level, where in the past we used to have up to diploma, those are 3 years post-secondary, but today we adopted the Bachelor of Technology and Masters of Technology, but not in all programs. We want to start small, but they will first have to do the diploma before they get admitted to the bachelor and master's level, Masters of Technology and Bachelor of Technology. And in order to access those programs at that levels, you must have innovative ideas. So it's not that everyone will be allowed to join the BTech and MTech, but also having allowed them and showed them that they can also go through technical education and reach that level. They are now coming to get interested. So those are the few things I can talk about technical education in Rwanda. But also we have a fund that is managed by the National Council for Science and Technology that was established in 2017. The fund is there to support innovation, but also research. Recently, we've launched the Industry Academia Challenge, where we call for applications of projects that are designed by academia and industry at the same time, and they get supported to do that research. And that, because part of the research work has to be done at the industry. So that is the way we see that we can link up with industry, because in the past, we used to see industries complaining that the graduates are not that good to work for them. But at the same time, schools were complaining that industries are not receiving the students for the industry attachment. So we are establishing measures to impose them to work together. So that in the future, the industry will see that it will gain the force work that is well trained and well skilled, but at the same time, the quality of research and innovation will be improved at school level, at university level. So that is what we are doing in a few, but also there was creation of institutions that will facilitate under the Ministry of Education. Actually, I am the minister, but I used to say that we are 3 in 1. Because we have also the Minister of State in charge of primary and the secondary, but there's another Minister of State in charge of ICT and TVET. And under the ministry, we have 2 institutions, the Rwanda TVET Board that implement all the programs that are designed for technical education at lower levels, like secondary and short-term training. But at polytechnic level, we have Rwanda Polytechnic, that is a higher learning institutions that has 8 colleges across the countries. So we have, as I started saying, we started at policy level. There are institutions in charge of implementing different activities that the government is planning, but also there are those targets that are set in the national strategies. But at the same time, we designed kind of funding model for TVET and technical education in order to promote, but also to link up with industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I think that level of investment in such an important area certainly deserves a round of applause. And just to say, I particularly enjoy how you've set up this dynamic where there's no excuses. So schools can't complain, industry can't complain. They have to work together to share those ideas. Just one follow-up question to that. You've invested so much in this area. How do you track and understand the results coming from that investment?
I talked about the institutions in charge of implementing the programs, but we have another agency in charge of inspection and examination. So that is in charge of assessment. That is at lower levels. So they do inspection, but for higher education, like the Polytechnic, we have the Higher Education Council. Those 2 institutions do assessment every year to assess how the programs, even the budget I talked about, how is it used, how are the programs implemented, and they can even take some measures. if a given school is not performing as it should, they are allowed to request the program to be closed. Even we can't go at that level. But also they have that mandate of advising them how to do better. So we have a system of tracking how the program is implemented, how are the inputs are being used, but also what are the outcomes from the training. So those two institutions, the Rwanda Examination and Inspection Authority, that is NESA, and the Higher Education Council are the two institutions that are in charge of monitoring on how everything is being done on the ground.
And I'd just ask you one follow-up question to that, if I may, because I think this issue of outcomes is so important. And we've heard today how at the basic education level there's been so much progress in terms of clarity of metrics and targets. Do you see that kind of clarity in the TVSD sector in terms of understanding the results of all of this investment and quality of education?
I think there is, because I've talked about the two institutions, but also we have a monitoring system, the school data management system, that it looks up the data in the whole sector, but we have a specific system in charge of monitoring all that, even including the recruitment of teachers or trainers, their progress in terms of ranking, but also when it comes to the assessment, we have standards. Yeah. So that you can assess the student is at that level. And as I said, we moved from knowledge-based to competence-based. That is easy to assess because at the end of each module, the student is assessed. There is what we call comprehensive assessment, continuous assessment, comprehensive assessment, and the final exams. So all those have standards that are followed, but also the fact that they are digitalized, anyone else can assess the progress from the registration up to the publication of the results. We have guidelines, we have standards, and we have the systems in place that allow us to monitor how things are done.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you so much.
I think I've asked you enough difficult questions for the moment, so I'm going to move on to Ms. Day. And we've heard a couple of great case studies from two countries that are making really significant investment in technical vocational skills development. NUFIC has a broad portfolio, is investing across a lot of countries. I'd love to hear from your perspective, what are you seeing as the best practices emerging, and what does the evidence say is the most effective way of investing in TVSD?
Thank you so much. Well, actually, the honourable ministers have already told the magic. It's about a system. It's about setting up a system and also aligning it from policy to make it possible. What we see at NUFIC is actually from all the countries we work in, that if it's a triangular effort from policy, industry and knowledge institutions, then it starts to work, and it even starts to work better if there are, we've already discussed it this morning, if there are tables, round tables like these where you can meet each other. Because what we see is, for example, for industry, it has to be interesting to invest in knowledge institutions, and they do want to invest in knowledge institutions if they see that the students coming from the educational institutions are up to standard when they arrive in the labor market. So, for example, both your countries are doing, I think, the utmost to do this and to adapt to the labor market. What we also see, we have different countries and different perspectives, is that it's very interesting for the labor market to enter into the curricula. And what we see is helping is, for example, to do a mentorship, because it's the guidance from an older person who is already in the labor market can be a key figure to the students. whether it's a he or a she, both matter, is very important. But also to assess the diploma sessions, for example, to come in and ask questions from the labor market. And that's only working if there is an internship beforehand, so that the student is up to what is it for. So roundtables on a strategy level to set up a system like this are important. And then when we go a bit deeper, it's also very important for knowledge institutions to see each other and to learn from each other. So we at NAFIC are, I always say, a fund manager on a strategic level. So what we try to do is to answer the questions of the countries here at the table with knowledge we have in the Netherlands, and to combine it, because to combine you can make new knowledge. And I have, for example, we have a very large TVET project in South Africa on agriculture and water management. And there are several institutions in South Africa from the water department. They are combining their knowledge with the TVET institutions, and also the same counts for the ones in the Netherlands. So, and together with policy makers. So you have this triangular table doing the best, and the students are really thrilled. They really want to go into agriculture and water, and that's also important because for some, going into agriculture and going into the water management is not the future they want to have. They want to be famous and have cars and etc. But this is actually a very innovative and very industrial sector. And once they know this, then they want to be in the future of their country in agriculture and water. And we have several examples also from Ethiopia and Uganda, but also outside of Africa, from Indonesia and Iraq, that show us the same thing.
It's so true. Young people, they want to be contributing to their country's development. Thank you. Oh, okay. So they want to be contributing to their country's development, and you give them that opportunity, and you can harness that enthusiasm, and that's where the change comes from. Thank you so much. I see we have Mr. Mayunda on the line now. Can you hear me, Mr. Mayunda?
Yes, perfectly, I can hear you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us here today. I'd love to bring you in now to give us the industry perspective. We've heard from ministers, we've heard from a donor about building up from the education side, investing in institutions, bringing them closer to industry. Can we hear from you? How are you connecting with universities, colleges, vocational schools for the benefit of your organization?
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and my greetings to all the guests at the panel and all the guests to this webinar. It has been maybe long coming for us to see business and education meeting together in order to respond to the need and answer to the need of the society. Festo is a company, you can recall it's a private company. We started as an industrial company whereby we can produce and manufacture industrial equipment, which we supply to all your big companies around the world. So it came about a time when we started doing some research and found out that supplying equipment only without knowledge on how to use those equipment was a challenge. And how can we bridge that? How can we do so that whatever equipment we supply, we can have the people to use them? Then we start creating another section of the Festo, which was purely a didactic division. Didactic division, which we manufacture actually equipment that are suitable for schools, TVET colleges in different levels. We started by trying to say, okay, for you to go and be in the company, to go and work, what do you need? So you need to do some experiments. And those experiments, there's no company that will allow you to go and do experiment on a big machine which need to produce And you can make mistakes on that one, and you know how you're gonna lose your production per day. So we start giving similar type of equipment that we use in industry, but in the smaller version, so that a student can be able to make mistakes in the classrooms and correct it, do troubleshooting, and move forward. So we are creating students that are ready for employability. A couple of years ago, where we as FESTO already foresee what industry is needed, now we start engaging together with industries. What type of skills do you require for you to up your production? Then we went back and said, no, we need to produce this type of students. We categorize them in saying, okay, we've got technical students and we've got researchers. Therefore, equipment that are going to assist university students, those that are going for degrees, because they can be able to do research, they can be able to do all sort of studies on them. But let's not forget those that are the youth that is coming up. We need those professional education. We need people to do plumbing. We need people to do welding. We need electricians, people that are able, hands-on, and make things work. That's how FESTO came about. Start now engaging with all stakeholders. As I'm speaking now, based in South Africa, but I'm responsible of different countries in the French region, like your Congo, DRC, your Congo Brazzaville, Gabon, Madagascar, and the Mauritius, where you are sitting. We do work together with the private and public sector. We come in not only to sell you equipment, we are coming to assist you so that together we can draft a curriculum that will respond to the needs of the company and what society needed. So we come up with different engagement. First, we come and develop the curriculum together with you guys, with the institutions. We bring in private sectors to know where they can source students. These TVET colleges that are here, this is what they are studying. This is what we are capable of offering them. Please don't go far. There they are. You can outsource them. You can bring them in your company because they've got enough skills that you are needed. Now we are seeing as time goes by, we say no, science must be loved by kids. What do? We had to go from source, from primary school up to secondary school, to make them fall in love with science. And what do? We develop some few of STEM equipment, your robotics, for instance, your bionic fish. So we are trying to make sure kids are in love with science. When you love science, you will love mathematics. When you love mathematics, you're going to be able to develop your thinking capacity, and which will allow you to go and do technical education. We do encourage women, we do encourage young girls. If you see what's happening in South Africa, that FESTO has taken as initiative is to promote these girls. There's no discrimination of you are a boy, you can't go and do mechanics. We've got many young girls that are doing electrical engineering. We've got many young boys as trainees who are doing wonders. So as FESTO, we are participating in different types of commissions around the world as well. We are also, just recently, we've just assisted to a world skills development. For us, FESTO, we call it as the Olympics of technicians. So whereby students are going to compete with others. The main aim is not for them to go and say, I was the winner, I got a gold medal. It's to expose them to technology so that they can also meet other counterparts from different countries, all developed countries, so that they can have together knowledge on how to move forward. So we are encouraging many young and encouraging industries to be parts of this journey that we're engaging on now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayanda. And yes, a round of applause, I think, for hearing that inspiring case study. And I hope that serves as inspiration for other industry leaders to see how investment in relationships with technical colleges and schools can be a win-win and a benefit for your company as well as for the young people in the countries that you work in. Now, unfortunately, we're pressed for time, and I'm conscious we haven't really touched on higher education at all. So this will be, we'll talk about higher education, but this will be the last question to each of the panelists. So I want to go back to the Honourable Minister for Mauritius. We've talked a lot today about technical, vocational skills, how, practically doing something, becoming the plumber, becoming the welder, that's so important. How important do you think it is for the cutting edge research, the leading ideas, to be African-led and generated within Africa? And how can we support that to happen more?
I would like to go back on what you said at the beginning. Sorry. I'll just go back to what you said just now. You stated that there should be something, technical education is fine, how do we move on? We need to get good welders, we need to get good plumbers, but at the same time, we need to consider technical education to be also at the higher end technical education. Because when we talk about technical education, when we talk about technical skills, obviously we do need those going for the vocational side, the plumbers and the welders and all, but we also need technicians at the higher end. So it is important that we change this outlook of technical education as being solely at one level, at the vocational level. Now, taking this in mind, we have to see what has been done here in Polytechnics Mauritius. We have tried to look for niche areas that would interest the students, not only for technical, and the same thing applies even for university. We need to link up whatever training we are offering to the requirements of the country. We've been talking about areas for research. Mauritius is a small island surrounded by the ocean. It has more oceanic area, economic zone, than its territory itself. So we need to start thinking about research. We need to start thinking about the exploitation of the resources in our seas. So how do we go about it? We need to start thinking about research that would have, let's say, outcomes that will impact on our growth. So it becomes very important then for us to tap from what is being done at the level of the continent. Because if Mauritius is here, we also have our friends, our countries of the continent who may be leading or having the same, let's say, requirements as we do. We are thinking that it's important at the level of higher education to lay emphasis on research, but not only research just for research's sake, but research with an implication with outcomes that would help society, that would help the economy. So we are thinking that it's important for us to come up with collaborative research, taking into consideration that the countries on the continent can also do things. So Africa together, countries together, finding out what are the requirements, what are the pillars of the economy that we want to develop, and what are the research projects we need to carry out, and how do we do it together. Because if we look at South Africa, if we look at Mozambique, there is so much that we have in common, and we need to put our heads together and ensure that the research work carried out at higher education level helps us. But having said that, I stated earlier today that we are developing our qualifications framework for the continent. And this will not only allow mobility of students, but will also allow mobility of our faculties, capacity to build research, to come up with research together. Our Higher Education Commission here has got a series of research schemes, but we do promote and lay a lot of emphasis on collaborative research. So I think that it is extremely important for us. If we want to advance, we have to ensure that we have the knowledge that would inform us and allow us to move in the right direction. And this can only be achieved by doing the right research and by having the right collaborations established. And if we want the renaissance of our continent, of Africa, we'll need to lay emphasis on research, collaborative research, and our ability to share our best practices. I think for higher education, we still have a lot to do, but we need to enhance mobility of faculties, mobility of students, and we need to start thinking as people of the continent, and we have to start thinking about goals and targets that we set for the continent. And this has to be made possible through collaboration.
Thank you so much. That's really, I love that combination of the passion with the clear goals and strategy and that commitment to partnership. I would turn now to the Honourable Minister for Rwanda, and if I could ask the same question of you, how important is it for you to be supporting African-led research, Rwandan-led research within Rwanda, and how are you enabling that?
Thank you very much, Dr. Risi. I think the role of higher learning institutions is to teach, do research, but also have community outreach. So please allow me to talk about the way I see higher learning institutions in Africa. And I think in morning sessions, I don't remember one of the presenter mentioned about that. Doing research is not something that you have to sit and do and publish and get promotion. And that is what we see characterizes our lecturers of university. So today's ambition for Rwanda is to have lecturers who do research to impact the life of the population in Rwanda. And for that, there are some reforms that took place as well. But as the Honorable Vice Prime Minister just mentioned, you cannot get good findings that impact the lives of the population if you work in isolation. One, because you might have skills and expertise in one area, but the research to have an impact, you need probably other expertise that you don't have. So working as a group is one thing, but also having partners that would support in terms of funding, because funding is very key if you want to get research outputs that would really impact and resolve the problems of the country. So what we do is to partner with different institutions, countries. One of the biggest partner in Rwanda with the University of Rwanda is CEDA project. That is the Swedish program that actually this year we are celebrating 20 years of partnership. So you can imagine, you can imagine the impactful the project had, because most of the PhD holders we have in the country have been trained through that partnership. And most of them are contributing in different sectors and areas, because the research is done in different sectors. So they do research, because one of the criteria is to have a local supervisor together with a Swedish supervisor, so that they can work on something that is really implementable in the country. So I cannot pass by without mentioning NUFIC, because we've already had a partnership together. And I'm glad to mention that I got my PhD through the support of NUFIC. I'm happy to sit with my sister here. So we've got a good number of graduates also from the Netherlands, but we all worked on projects related to Rwandan issues. So But there is one component that we are trying to fix in the country, how those findings, how those research outputs indicate what policy have to be in place, because we want to have the research outcomes coming and supporting the policies formulation in the country. So having partnership, and I've already mentioned the fund, the research fund that is managed by the National Science for Technology in the country. So having a good partnership, working on the real problems that the country is facing, and having funds, building the capacity among university lecturers to really do good proposals that can even be competitive and get grants to do research. That is what we are focusing on, but also without forgetting the quality teaching, because those doing research, those going for further studies will be the one coming and teach, but also the teaching shouldn't be the end point of having a university in a place. They have to do research, but also impactful research that really changes the lives of the population. And that is the main focus currently in Rwanda, to have those institutions. But also we've tried to attract best universities in the country. Like now we have Carnegie Mellon University in Rwanda, Africa, which is in Rwanda, but also supporting and receiving students from the region. And what Rwanda did, because we believe we cannot work in isolation, as I said, we support the regional student coming from the region are paying the same school fees as the Rwandan students. So we attract best universities to come in the country. We have Carnegie Mellon University, we have African Leadership University, we have University of Global Health Equity, but also many more are coming to the country to support increasing the level of research, like Coventry University that has a hub in Kigali, and we are open to any other universities, foreigner university that might come in the country and support doing research. And we have also in African countries, African universities, we have Mount Kenya University that is in Kigali, and soon it will be accredited as a local university. So we are so glad to work with different partners, but with the aim of increasing the research output, that, and so that the fundings coming from this research are really handling the real issues the country is facing right now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Again, hearing that, that theme of partnership research is quintessentially an international exercise, and so wonderful to hear how committed the ministers here today are to that international collaboration. We are out of time, but I do want to give our final two panelists maybe just 30 seconds each. I'm going to give you a quick fire question. So, Titia, what one thing would you like to see ministers across Africa do to support higher education? That's your question. And then Mr. Mayanda, your question will be, what one thing would you like to see ministers across Africa do to improve links between industry and higher education?
Well, thank you so much. Well, one thing is, most things are already done, but what I think would be very, very helpful is to have a large African PhD program, because collaborative research is very important, and maybe it could be on the challenges of Africa. So maybe on climate change, on water, on agriculture, on societal health and reproductive rights, on youth enforcement, on all the challenges Africa has, because I think that would also attract all the other scholars from the rest of the world to combine their knowledge with yours. So if this could be the start of the first African PhD program, my day would be so wonderful. Thank you.
That's a great call to action. There are already these PhD programs on the continent, but it's an order of magnitude or 2 orders of magnitude too small. We need to see thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of PhDs, yes. So let me turn to Mr. Mayanda.
Thank you very much. Very interesting topic, but not enough time, but we can manage with what we have. For us, as Festo being from the private sector, what we will love to see honorable ministers sitting in the panel and others that are not attending in the continent is to give enough seriousness into education in Africa. Provide enough budget to promote education. We will sit and create beautiful slogans, what we need to do, industrialization of Africa. It will only come with the goodwill of political authorities. Let's work together with private sectors, not in isolation, because they know what you need. We know also what we can provide for you. Together in a professional way, we can be able to have an outcome that will improve education in Africa. Industrialization is there. Trying to touch quick one on the research part that my honorable ministers have explained. Research is good, but what do you do research? What is the outcome of the research? The outcome is to respond to the need of society. What is missing in society and what can we do to assist them? So it's up to us to take this seriousness, and together we can say, yes, Africa will move forward. Education at all levels must be attended to, not only at higher level, TVET and universities only. From secondary school and primary, they will have enough time to produce. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. What a wonderful note to end on, and I hope you'll all join me in thanking my fantastic panelists for their inspirational comments. I hope that inspires in you hope and the desire to take action in your own countries. So please join me in saying a big thank you. Round of applause. And thank you so much to all of you here as well for pushing on through the lunch break and listening to the conversation. Thank you so much.